3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Connecticut Board of Regents for Higher Education. A special appreciation to the team who've managed and continue to manage the very, very challenging tech issues associated with a public meeting with many participants, including those who wish to speak one at a time, and an array of regents with varying degrees of proficiency in this regard. So thank you really for doing such a fine job with this, and we know that you will be excused for any issues that come up along the way here because it's not an easy one. I wanted to start by noting that we have a new regent among us. So in the good news category, I want to welcome our new student regent and chair of the Student Advisory Committee, Audrey Redpath. Audrey, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you with us, and we look forward to working with you. Audrey is attending at Western. After my own heart, she is studying journalism. She is president of the Student Publications Board, vice president of the Student Government Association, and editor and investigative lead at the Echo newspaper. This is a world that needs good journalism, so kudos to you, Audrey, for taking that on. In the sad news category, I wanted to just pass along that Southern President Bertolino is away, where his mother has passed after an illness over some months. So our thoughts are with him and his family at what is clearly a difficult time. So that explains why he's not with us today, as he always is. And our heart is with you, Dr. Bertolino. Let me ask the Assistant Secretary now to please call the roll.
With your permission, Chair Fleury, I'll take the roll. Regent Fleury, Chair Fleury.
Here.
Regent Harris.
Here.
Regent Balducci.
Here.
Thank you. Regent Budd.
Here.
Regent Cohen.
Here.
Regent Gray Kemp.
Here.
Regent Howery.
Here.
Regent Jimenez.
Here.
Regent Ryan.
Here.
Regent Santiago. Your absence has been noted. Regent Wright.
Here.
Student Regent Redpath.
Here.
Student Regent Oglesby.
Here.
Professor Blitz.
Here.
Professor Sasanker.
Here.
Commissioner Westby. Your absence is noted. Commissioner Gifford. Your absence is noted. And Commissioner Lehman. Your absence is noted. Commissioner Cardona. Your absence is noted. Chair Fleury, you have a quorum.
Thank you, and welcome again, everyone. Just to note, there is, from my observation, less weather happening than was predicted, thank goodness, but should it start to happen again and affect our technology here, either the WebEx link or our YouTube live stream, our meeting would be halted, and information about continuation of the meeting, when we pick up, how and where, would appear on the CSCU website, but hopefully that won't happen. Let me ask for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. This is Elise Wright, so second.
Thank you, Naomi and Elise. Any amendments or discussion about the agenda? All in favor on the agenda? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, the agenda is adopted. And now, as Alice mentioned, we have an opportunity to address the board, and we have a fairly large number of individuals who'd like to do so. We allocate about 30 minutes to this, though I've been known to stretch that a little bit to make sure everybody gets a chance. we do think it's reasonable to ask, in order to get as many people the opportunity as possible, that we confine comments to about 2 minutes. And I would remind you that that's about the time that Nina Totenberg needs to explain the Supreme Court's workings on a nightly basis on NPR, so we can do it too. But we do look forward, in all seriousness, to hearing your remarks, and rather than interject and welcome people one at a time, as I usually do in the regular setting, I'm going to just turn it to the secretary and ask her to do that. And I'll turn off my mic and we will be listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Fleury. In addition to the public comment today, we've received 2 letters from the public, which have been sent to all of the regents prior to this meeting. And in accordance with the FOI Freedom of Information Act guidelines as amended during the pandemic, they've been posted to the CSCU website immediately prior to the starting of this meeting. And with that precursor, we've got our first presenter is Tim Parrish, Professor of Creative Writing.
Good morning. I'm Professor Tim Parrish, and I've been coordinator of creative writing at Southern Connecticut State for 26 years. As an educator of 39 years, it's my ethical duty to say that the board's proposal to give our 4 universities the heaviest teaching load of any universities in the country, to mostly exclude faculty from education and personnel decisions, and to remove support for research and creative activity that make us effective teachers, will undermine accessible, high-quality university education for thousands of underrepresented, underserved citizens in Connecticut. I'd like to make 2 points. 1, we are comprehensive universities and should be treated as such for the well-being of our citizenry. As an example, our Master of Fine Arts program in creative writing has graduated students from 19 states, and our graduate and undergraduate students have published over 80 books, some of which have been reviewed in the New York Times Book Review, the New Yorker, the LA Times, and on NPR, and have been on best of lists from Oprah Magazine to Esquire. These books by working class writers deal with important topics such as sexual assault and combat experience in the U.S. Army, the immigrant experience in Waterbury, and the challenges and joys of being a Black woman who becomes a gender studies professor at UConn. 2, let me dispel the stereotype of our casual workload. We care deeply about our students and universities, and many of us work an average of 50 to 60 hours a week preparing and teaching students from first year to graduate level, grading hundreds of pages, corresponding with students, holding conferences, advising, scheduling, counseling, encouraging, helping with career planning, advocating, running internships, writing recommendation letters, organizing and running extracurricular events and clubs, running programs, and more. For the good of our departments and universities, we serve on committees that better the education of our students. We negotiate with administrators to balance education with the bottom line. And we constantly collect data and prepare in-house and outside reports for accreditation and evaluation of effectiveness. We also do most of our own clerical work. And we do not have summers and time between semesters off, but rather use them to do our required and necessary creative activity and research that we do not have time to do during the semester. These are treasured required activities that make us informed teachers. Your proposal aims to strip support for these activities. You are stewards of the universities that produce the majority of Connecticut's college-educated workforce, and I'm disappointed that you aim to diminish our ability to teach at the highest level and thereby diminish citizens' chances for excellent, affordable higher educations. We help people find the richer lives they want. I implore you to start supporting us in doing that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim. Our next presenter is student Tess Bushman. She's at Southern Connecticut State University in Communications.
Hello, my name is Tess Bushman and I am a communication major at Southern. Through my time at Southern, I traveled through 4 different majors, and yet thanks to Southern's amazing faculty, I'm still graduating after 4 years this May. I have taken classes ranging from economics and education to photography and communication. Even though all of these subjects have completely different perspectives and teachings, they all share a few things in common. For one, they all have faculty who are extremely dedicated and all of these majors share Southern's value of social justice and include it in their courses. Lastly, all of them have helped me develop the critical thinking, reading comprehension, and public speaking skills I need in order to become a lawyer. Being a lawyer is something that has always been a potential career path for me, but it wasn't until my experiences at Southern that I felt confident enough to pursue it. In fact, I attended a lecture with my COM 150 class to hear Sonia Nazario speak on her book, Enrique's Journey, and the issues our country has with immigration. It was after this lecture that I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, potentially focusing on immigration law. The way Sonia spoke, combined with our post-lecture discussion in my class, compelled me to commit to this journey towards law school. Now, I sit in front of you today, almost a Southern graduate, studying for the LSATs and prepared to take on law school in the next year or two. Thanks to my amazing professors, the on-campus counselors who helped me overcome my struggles with depression and anxiety, and many others, I have been inspired to go above and beyond in their honor. A pandemic is not an excuse for denying their request for fair compensation and treatment. Budget cuts are not excuses to act like children and call our hardworking faculty whiny, especially when they are simply telling you what they need in order to provide the best environment for us students, whom are the future of the world. You are adults who are capable of open discussion and fair compromises, and yet I have seen some college students who are better at listening to others than some of you. It is frankly disappointing to hear about the lack of respect upheld by some members of your board. And as Southern's communication department preaches, you have to listen to understand rather than listen to respond. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tess. Our next presenter is Joshua Cam, another student from Southern.
Are you on mute, perhaps?
Are you talking about me?
Yes, Josh, go ahead. You're ready.
All right, thank you. All right. My name is Josh Kim, and as an individual at Southern Connecticut State University, I came in as a transfer student from Norwalk Community College. Now, as you already know, the Board of Regents are familiar with their work at the community college level. Their plans to consolidate it continued even with the disapproval from concerned students, faculty, and staff. They decided to hire regional presidents, meaning that they decided to disregard the considerations of the entirety of the CSCU. Now, we already know that the Board of Regents is infamous for conducting their business solely to themselves, without any public demand. How can you be a public institution but disregard all public comments as well as the employees and students of these public institutions? You create things such as students first, when evidently it was never for students, it was meant for budget cuts, conducted as a tyrannical business and referred to your own employees as whiny individuals. And as a student, I see a comparison to our national government as well to the Board of Regents. You're all 70 to 80-year-old grown adults who care nothing less about the health and safety of the CSCU communities. How can you expect to reach the students if you can't reach the faculty and staff under CSCU? I've witnessed a distasteful mistreatment of my fellow professors. Having to teach a course from a hospital bed is inhumane whatsoever. As a student, you expect to see professors treated with respect based on their tenure and their long, hard-working hours. Those same hours were meant to benefit the education for us students. Seeing this convinces me that my potential future working in higher ed should not be served in the state of Connecticut or towards its state schools. Your proposals to the New England College Accreditation Agency in the past have been denied. You see this as a way for your proposals to be revisited and revised, but instead you decide not to revise with your own people it was meant for. The BOR say things such as, why can't we work together to find a solution? But you refuse to work under our conditions. At the end of the day, you're a business. You're meant for education, but it is business first. Business coincides with policy. Policy is always being rewritten in a sense for your own benefit. We have students who have no one to go to because our professors have been forced to deal with the Board of Regents shenanigans. They're putting up a good fight while we must sit here and watch. Well, we're not going to watch anymore. Many more stressful things will come upon us students. We already have to deal with climbing COVID cases on campus. They already have to deal with racial injustice. They already have to deal with certain frustrations because the Board of Regents told us it's policy. We are students that appreciate the work of the professors, not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom as well. Some CSU professors don't even have living wages, which is hard based on this pandemic. This is extremely painful because you have individuals who want to teach so badly, but the circumstances that the BOR has laid out don't entirely fit for them. You must remember this. The professors are doing it for the students and to educate them. as an extension of them continuing their life of giving back. Now ask yourself this, what exactly is the BOR giving back? Done.
Thank you, Josh. Our next presenter is Eve Harrison, a parent of a former SCSU student.
Is this, hello?
Yeah, Eve, thank you. Yes, you may begin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My family has been alarmed by the reports that resources for professors at Southern are in jeopardy. Our older son, Joseph, had a very positive experience at Southern, and the professors had time to extend themselves to him and other students and prepare for class and give students feedback. We believe his successful time at Southern had a lot to do with the dedication and availability of the Southern staff and faculty. My son Joe was set to go to a competitive out-of-state university, but he had some serious medical problems that required that he stay closer to home. When we went to the Southern orientation, we were all very anxious, and the professors reassured us. They were warm. Each staff member we met provided us with contact information about themselves in case we needed follow-up. Each seemed genuinely interested in Joe having a positive experience at Southern. Joe was admitted to the honors program where he took interesting, fun classes. He told us about a difficult math class he took. He recounted how the professor told the class that he knew many students are intimidated by math. The professor then suddenly threw a ball out to the students. When a student caught the ball, the professor said, "If you can catch the ball, you're doing math." The professor went on to explain that math was what allowed the ball catching student to know where the ball was going to land. Another memorable class was titled Ambiguity. The class was co-taught by two professors who pulled together information from literature and science to help the students think about ambiguity. Students wrote essays that the professors reviewed and graded. Joe told us that the class conversations were thought-provoking. As a young man who was adjusting to the stress of leaving home and being at a new school, he related to the discussion of ambiguity in a personal way. Since graduating college and moving on to working, Joe's become a high school biology teacher, and he can more deeply appreciate how hard it was to prepare for and teach the classes he took at Southern. He knows that putting together a discussion class is time consuming. Pulling together information from different disciplines is hard work. Reading students' work, grading it, and helping them think about it took effort from dedicated, engaged professors. Since Joe has graduated and is no longer at Southern, we have, as a family, donated money every year in the hopes that, sorry.
Ms. Harrison, could you wrap it up, please?
Yep.
You're past 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. So we've donated every year in the hopes that his experience can be repeated for other students, and just as a thank you to how well his time there worked for him. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Our next presenter is Evan DiCarlo. He is a graduate of the CSCU's English program. Evan?
Hi there.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Evan. I'd like to say a few words today on behalf of Southern Connecticut State University, particularly the school's graduate English program, and more particularly in defense of Southern's status as a capital U university and not anything less. I joined SCSU's MA program in English in 2016. 3 years later, just before I graduated from Southern, I was accepted to the Ohio State University's English PhD program on a full fellowship. That's where I am now in my second doctoral year in Columbus, Ohio. As many of you likely know, OSU is an R1 university in the Big Ten, and humanities fellowships there, aka full funding, are not handed out liberally. It may seem anomalous for a graduate student to go from a regional comprehensive university to a big program like this one, but in fact, I maintain that Southern's role in not only preparing me to earn such a fellowship, but also training me for the kinds of professional endeavors I would be engaged in here in Ohio, cannot be overstated. I believe it is highly generalizable to other potential graduate students at Southern, barring any devastating cuts to the school's budgets, yes, but also to any threats to the school's ethos and the spirit of the faculty members themselves. My experience of academia ran the gamut at Southern. It was tempered, you might even say gilded, at all times by the opportunities I had to work under and eventually alongside myriad faculty members who were then and remain now active in their own fields, not just a few cherry-picked faculty whose research agendas appealed to administrative aims, but essentially the entire department. To name such a few opportunities, I worked as a graduate writing tutor at Southern Connecticut State University's Writing Center, under Dr. Elizabeth Kalbfleisch, an RCL scholar and expert in writing pedagogy. I became enrolled in the English department's GTA track, a course of classes that enable graduate students to be trained further in writing pedagogies and eventually teach their own classes. In this program, I studied classroom management and composition instruction theory under Brian Johnson, director of the school's first-year writing program. I was apprenticed to Dr. Brandon Hutchinson, under whom I TA'd my first real composition courses. Then I was given classes of my own to teach under the supervision and guidance of Dr. Scott Ellis. I would go on to receive further professional instruction in the pedagogy of British literature by Dr. Andrew Smith, the then chair of an already very busy department, who still made time to meet with me 3 afternoons a week and help me bone up on the subject and my own teaching methods. By the time I graduated, I had TA'd 3 classes and taught 6 of my own. It is remarkable that all this happened concurrently with a more conventional graduate course load. This fact enabled by the diverse and impressive professional agenda and abilities of the department. This is also to say nothing of the many conferences, symposia, and colloquia that the department offered I was able to attend, hosted by unique field experts like Dr. Joel Dodson, along with the departmental graduate journal in which I was able to publish my first academic work. In short, my experience at Southern was embodied by a long line of outstanding mentorships. Looking back, I can't understand why I was ever apprehensive about being admitted to a big PhD program. SCSU's English department already had all the professional diversity, training opportunities, mentorships, and professional aura of a big PhD program. And I can say that with some perspective. It is my hope that Southern's capacity to offer this kind of magnificent experience to all students only grows. To see it reduced would not only be heartbreaking, but a great detriment to the young people of Connecticut who deserve such a real, accessible, and excellent path to success. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Evan. Our next presenter is Dr. Theresa Marchand Shapiro. And you may begin whenever you'd like.
I come to you this morning in my role as co-manager of Southern's NECHI accreditation. Because the purpose of NECHI standards is to ensure that we provide a quality education, in our self-study, we describe the processes and structures that ensure that we meet those standards. As a result, I was shocked to find that the board's proposed contract deleted many of the very passages of the CBA I had used as evidence that we meet the standards. The quality assurance standards that are violated include Standard 315 requires that faculty have a substantive voice in faculty personnel issues, which would include hiring adjuncts and also P&T. Standard 6.3 gives a list of appropriate qualifications for faculty that does not include anything as fraught as collegiality. Standard 6.7 requires that faculty have adequate time for their duties, which means that if one responsibility is increased, another must be decreased. Standard 6.12 requires mechanisms to promote academic freedom, including for adjuncts. Standard 620 requires that the institution provides support for scholarship. It makes no sense that the board's ideal contract would both threaten our accreditation and impede our ability to provide a quality education. This brings me to Standard 3, which outlines the requirements for the BOR. Standard 3.5 reads, members of the governing board fulfill the responsibilities as fiduciaries to act in good faith in the best interest of the institution towards its educational purposes in a manner free from conflicts of interest. I've read the codes of ethics for the state and the board and also state statute. It is a clear violation to hire the law firm of a board member, but even without that conflict of interest, hiring a union-busting law firm and following its counsel in this proposal prioritized that firm's interest in disempowering the union at the cost of the board's primary educational purpose. We are not enemies. We have a common interest in providing a quality education for our students. But for that to happen, the board needs to do three things. One, immediately reinstate the provisions required by NECHI standards. Two, stop giving tax funds to a law firm that seems to care nothing for the educational mission of the CSU system. Three, begin negotiating in good faith. Only then can we harness our collective creative powers in working for our common goals.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Dr. Michelle Blaschall. You may begin whenever you'd like.
Hold on, I just brought her in. There she is.
There she is. Michelle, you may begin whenever you'd like. Michelle, you're muted. There you are.
Sorry about that. I should be used to it by now. Good morning. So my name is Michelle Blaschall. I'm a CSU professor at Eastern, and I am not a businesswoman, and my students are not my customers. I do understand, though, that universities must be profitable to be sustainable. However, this sustainability can only be achieved by ensuring two tenets I'd like to address today: academic freedom and shared governance. My colleagues and I do not provide a packaged, replicable product. What we provide, even with a common syllabus, is knowledge and skills uniquely acquired and uniquely delivered to equally unique individuals with different knowledge, skills, backgrounds, and life experiences. Even before the pandemic, when students' needs have exceeded the academic packages posted on Blackboard, we ensured our students' physical, emotional, and mental health. We have gone above and beyond the mere teaching of our material, which this proposed contract would reduce us to, depriving us of our academic freedom. We're effective teachers, librarians, coaches, counselors, because we know our students individually. We know where their strengths and weaknesses, their interests, and the gaps in their knowledge lie. Because we enjoy academic freedom, we can select materials that will foster their learning and intellectual growth and yield the best results. Because we enjoy academic freedom, we can select materials that will shake and sometimes shatter their beliefs, materials that will make them think. Without this exchange of ideas, no more growth and the sure intellectual pauperization of Connecticut's future workforce. Do you want Connecticut to be populated with yahoos? Do you hold our students, your students, in such low regard that you think they'll go for lobotomized teaching? Enrollments will drop. If words and concepts like academic freedom and intellectual property don't speak to you, let me speak the language of profitability and revenue. Do you think that NECHI, which requires shared governance, guarantees of academic freedom and intellectual property, will reaccredit institutions with such a proposed Stalinist regime? Without reaccreditation on the agenda this semester, enrollments will drop. I deeply care about my students. I want them to grow academically, intellectually, personally. We have the distinct and enviable opportunity to broaden young people's horizons and make them aware that they have a role to play in the future of the state, that they matter no matter what their job will be and what role they take on. What does this have to do with shared governance? Well, because I am respected as a professional by my leadership, I have a vested interest in the success of my students and my institution. I went and will go above and beyond what I'm paid to do because I am valued by you, the Board of Regents, who know that I'm an expert in my field. You who trust that my sense of ethics will guide me in selecting the job candidate that will best serve our students. You who trust that my sense of ethics will make me not recommend for tenure or renewal a colleague that does not serve our students well. Been there, done that twice. Not easy.
Michelle, if you could wrap up your comments, please.
I'm wrapping up. Our responsibility, mine and yours. Our responsibility is to enrich and empower young people who will generate revenue not just for 4 years, but will come up with innovative projects and business ventures that will make our state thrive in the long run, which they will not do if they're taught by a bunch of far-left diplomats. The contract on the table, business model you're trying to force upon us all, including students, is nothing less than short-sighted and simply detrimental for the future of Connecticut. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next presenter is Sherry King, Chair, Department of the Counselor of Education and Family Therapy at Central.
Good morning.
Sherry, you begin.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Dr. Sherry King. I'm the chair of the Counselor Education and Family Therapy Graduate Department. I've been with the CCSU faculty for over 17 years. As the largest graduate program at CCSU, the Department of Counselor Education and Family Therapy provides the necessary training and education to prepare behavioral health clinicians, counselors, and higher education professionals to serve the needs of the citizens of Connecticut. And we've been doing this for 40 years. We presently have 315 full-time and part-time graduate students enrolled this semester. And on average, we graduate approximately 100 students a year. We have 4 programs in our department. Our clinical professional counseling program, which includes clinical mental health, clinical rehabilitation, and addictions counseling, as well as our school counseling specializations, which are both nationally accredited by the Council on Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs called CACREP. Our marriage and family therapy program is also accredited by the Commission on Accreditation for Marriage and Family Therapy Education. And our student development in higher education follows the best practices for the Council on Advancement Standards in Higher Education to prepare students to work in higher ed. As a graduate level only department, we feel it's critically important to alert the BOR about the significant differences between undergrad, community college, and graduate education. Nationally accredited programs like ours in clinical training are highly specialized. Graduate program professors work more intensely and more closely with students in delivering not only content in our teaching, but also building an evaluation of clinical counseling skills and competencies so we can develop professional and ethical practitioners. Most importantly, we have an intense clinical training program and supervision of our students, which requires a lot of time, much like training physicians, nurses, allied health professionals, teachers, etc. Our programs also required a rigorous admissions process, as well as extensive student and program evaluation as part of our accreditation. So our professors, beyond working as teachers and clinical supervisors, are responsible for doing program evaluation on an ongoing basis as part of our accreditations. Our programs are not input only. We're grounded in academic standards. Our only goal is to train graduate level students to become behavioral health clinicians and counseling professionals, to obtain professional licenses and certifications. Our graduates become licensed professional counselors, licensed alcohol and drug counselors, and are licensed by the Connecticut Department of Health. Our licensed marriage and family therapists are also with the Department of Public Health. Our students who finished our school counseling program are certified by the Department of Education in Connecticut. Presently, as you all know, the state of Connecticut, and this is reported by the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, DEMAS, indicated in their most recent mental health report before COVID that mental health and addictions conditions have been at an all-time high prior to COVID. That has only increased. So
could you wrap up your comments, please? We're
Sure.
over 3 minutes. Thank you.
Sure. In summary, it is critically important that the Board of Education seriously contemplate many of the proposed changes in the contract. These are incompatible with our accreditation standards and will be destructive to our graduate programs. And we will not be able to work with our students and prepare them for positions within the state of Connecticut to serve the mental health and educational needs of the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Dr. Tricia Lynn from Southern Connecticut State University.
And
Tricia,
can I
you
just say
there?
real quick that those of you who are supposed to be in the lobby, everybody is now in the meeting. So if you'll just make sure you stay muted, and if you'd like to turn your camera off until your turn, you could do that as well.
Yes, you may begin whenever you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very good morning. My name is Tricia Lynn, Professor and Director of Women's and Gender Studies at Southern. 2021 marks half a century of women's and gender studies at Southern. For 50 years. Our program has grown slowly and steadily with the support from the university, first to establish a minor and then a Master of Arts in Women's Studies in 1998. We were the standalone program in a public university to offer a MA degree in Women's Studies in the Northeast. When I arrived in 2004, I was able to build on the good work. We went on to add an online graduate certificate program in 2012 and a dual degree in social work and women's studies in 2014, both among the very few in the nation. With the support for faculty development, I was able to take on the national leadership. I was president of the National Women's Studies Association from 2012 to 2014. My national leadership reinforced the program's reputation and put Southern on the map. We were highlighted in the Ms. magazine as a vibrant regional program. We have indeed attracted applicants from around the country and the world. We work to grow the many brilliant minds that choose WGS MA at Southern for their first, second, or third graduate. Kirsten Brunnen over Germany chose us for her Fulbright study in 2018-2019. Shampa Iftikhar was assistant professor of English in Dhaka, Bangladesh, when she applied to our program in 2019. She arrived last month in January from Dhaka for her second graduate pursuit. And we have 200 plus more stories. We work to nurture our students to their full potential in their scholarly, creative, and career pursuits. Our alumni, wherever they find themselves, all work and contribute mightily to their communities and economy. This is not about one unique program. This is a story about the everyday wonders happening at Southern and other CSU campuses, made only possible with the support that has been there. The BOR contract proposals will threaten the accreditation of the university, hence our program, hence the life of the entire institution. It would take away the support that has sustained our work. With the BOR proposals, I cannot imagine a future for the many wonderful programs like ours. We ask urgently that you do not negotiate away the future of this great institution. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Christopher Trombley from Southern.
Good morning. The Board of Regents' mission is, quote, to contribute to the creation of knowledge and the economic growth of the state of Connecticut by providing affordable, innovative, and rigorous programs, end quote. Yet the contract proposals that were submitted on your behalf to the CSU AAUP would sacrifice the latter, innovative and rigorous programs, to the former, affordability. If the system's own figures are any indication, though, the affordability that such proposals would achieve would apply to the state's general fund, not to the students and families whom this system exists to serve. In 2014, the total revenue per student across the 4 CSUs was $13,510, 34% from the general fund, 66% from tuition and fees. In 2019, the revenue per student was $16,158, 33% from the general fund, 67% from tuition and fees. More germane to the contract proposals, the instructional line in 2014 represented 33% of the budget for the CSUs. In 2019, instruction represented 34%. These facts beg several questions. First, if the proportion of the budget represented by instruction has remained constant, Why is the board now proposing such drastic and such counterproductive changes to the working conditions of the faculty who provide that instruction? Second, how does the board expect that the CSUs could possibly continue to create knowledge, contribute to the state's economic growth, or provide innovative and rigorous programs if faculty members are made to teach 5 courses per semester, rather than the 4 per semester that we currently teach, or the 3 per term that are customary in many public institutions? Such course loads, coupled with proposed cuts to funding for research and conference travel, would hinder faculty members from engaging in the very scholarship that defines the CSUs as universities. Third, how does the board think that its mission could possibly be fulfilled if programs and schools lose accreditations due to these ill-considered proposals? I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Professor Christine Hegel Cantarella. You may begin whenever you like.
Thank you. My name is Christine Hegel Cantarella. I'm an associate professor of anthropology in the Department of Social Sciences at Western Connecticut State University. I've been a professor at WCSU since 2012, and in 2017, you, the Board of Regents, honored me with the award for teaching excellence. I cherish that award, and I am 110% dedicated to my job. I teach courses on economic anthropology, law and society, qualitative research methods, introductory anthropology, the Middle East, public and applied anthropology, and others. In other words, my teaching encompasses multiple areas of expertise. I've cultivated this expertise not by teaching, but rather through my research activities. I am a BOR, award-winning teacher, because I am first and foremost a scholar. I have conducted long-term studies in Egypt, Finland, and the US, and I currently do applied research in New York City, examining how emerging EPR policies can incorporate informal workers in the circular economy. Last summer, I hired our students as research assistants on a study examining the impact of COVID-19 on informal workers in the city. This was a global study encompassing research sites in 12 countries, and our studies received paid training, interacted with researchers around the world, helped collect and organize survey data. The results of this study are now being used by state and local representatives to protect the health and livelihoods of vulnerable workers. In other words, our WCSU students are involved in research that is contributing to improving the lives of others. These and other initiatives grow out of my personal commitment to ensuring that our students develop the skills they need to be change makers, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. But my ability to make these commitments, which go far beyond developing curriculum, delivering lectures, and grading papers, is only possible because of reassigned time for research, research funding, and a reasonable teaching load. I generate work opportunities for Connecticut students when I'm tapped to lead a research initiative because my scholarship is respected. Most importantly, I model for Connecticut students in my classes how to use social science research to make a difference. I want you, the BOR, to invest in pathways for our students to make a difference in their communities. You can do this by investing in faculty. Your contract proposals to eliminate research support and increase teaching loads ensure that students will not receive the kinds of opportunities I and other faculty create for them at the intersection of our teaching and research. I want you to think long-term and invest in our universities so that as faculty we can open doors, amplify their voices, and set them on paths that benefit our students and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Michelle Gannon from Western. You may begin whenever you'd like.
I'd like to thank the board for affording me the opportunity to speak about AACSB accreditation today. My remarks are complementary to those made by prior speakers regarding the importance of accreditation. I agree with what was said and can only reiterate the importance of ongoing impactful scholarship. Being an AACSB accredited business school makes Western part of an effort to transform lives by fostering engagement, accelerating innovation, and amplifying impact in business education. Its vision is to transform business education, to create prosperity while increasing inclusion, and diversity, inculcating a global mindset, building community, and encouraging ethical actions and social responsibility. The accreditation process isn't about forms, surveys, and self-evaluation reports. It's about faculty effort. At Western, the faculty has formed learning goals assessment committees that tackle business core content, but also writing, oral communication, critical thinking, teamwork, and global awareness. We've read and discussed student memos and watched video presentations. The faculty have assumed the responsibility for assurance of learning in these other areas so that we can graduate the well-rounded students that Connecticut needs. We've worked with Western's writing department to develop courses designed for business students and are working with communications to build the skills graduates need. Beyond scholarship, assessment, and the service all faculty perform to sustain excellence through shared governance, AACSB requires that we are engaged in the professional lives of students beyond the confines of the classroom through advisement, club activities, and social and service learning. We engage with the local business community and other stakeholders through advisory boards, memberships in philanthropic organizations, and through service learning projects. At the Ansel School, we believe the best way to ensure the best education for our students is to continue to meet AACSB standards. With low pay, increased teaching load, and inadequate resources for databases and technology, we will be unable to maintain the required level of effort beyond the classroom. If our teaching load is increased, our sabbaticals and research funding stripped, and reassigned time for research is abolished. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Seth Freeman from Capital Community College. You can begin, Seth, whenever you'd like.
Hi, everyone. My name is Seth Freeman. I'm a professor at Capital Community College. I recently wrote an op-ed in the Connecticut Post, Merger Plan, Not the Best Course for Community Colleges, to rebut a prior op-ed by interim President Jane Gates. I wrote the op-ed to challenge head-on the propaganda put out by President Gates and to highlight the absurdity that this consolidation is being done to improve equity or student outcomes. 201 community college faculty and staff signed on to the op-ed. I come to speak openly and frankly to this board to expand upon the op-ed and to bear witness on behalf of my colleagues. I bear witness for my colleagues who voted no confidence in this board and who have fought this sham consolidation from the beginning. I also bear witness for my colleagues who participate in the consolidation committees and try in earnest to shape the policy and curriculum of the one college. All of us, those who object and those who participate, at this point understand that this consolidation is a lie and a fraud. I want to speak to a couple purposes of the op-ed. First, it challenges this board for the way you repeatedly lie about our opposition to consolidation. All of us who are fighting will never allow that garbage to go unchallenged. But more importantly, the op-ed calls out this board for your bankrupt vision and negligent advocacy for our students. In a remarkably telling statement, President Gates said in her op-ed that our system does not deserve increased investments from the state. We don't know would we ever agree with that sentiment. We believe all 12 of our community colleges deserve robust investments from the state. We believe anything less than that is a failure from our state. Finally, the op-ed serves as a small reminder to this board that that despite your efforts to castigate and diminish us, we will not be made small nor cower. We are the experts in the classroom. We are the specialists who serve our students each day. We have knowledge and experience which benefits our students and makes our colleges special. Unlike you, we do know our value. Unlike you, we do know that our experience and expertise cannot simply be replaced. As long as we are disrespected and devalued, we will directly and openly challenge this board and fight back. We work too hard and have given too many years to our colleges to not do so. We will never stop fighting. We are fighting for our colleges and we are fighting for our students. And our colleges and our students deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Andrew Smith from Southern. Professor, you may begin whenever you'd like.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Andrew Smith, and I'm a professor and chair of the English department at Southern Connecticut State University. In my primary role, I prepare future secondary English teachers for careers in Connecticut's middle and high schools. I speak today in support of giving our future teachers the kind of robust university education they need to advance teaching and learning in the coming decades. Such a rigorous and rewarding teacher preparation is available to students throughout the state thanks to past investments in the CSU campuses, faculty, and outreach networks. It is threatened by the evisceration of the very same system in the latest BOR contract proposal. Specifically, the proposed increased teaching loads and reduced research support will take away the profound value of mentorship by dedicated scholars and practitioners in education at a time when Connecticut needs teacher leadership and development more than ever. Just yesterday, I was able to spend the morning with a student teacher at a Connecticut high school. She was teaching Romeo and Juliet to a group of 9th grade students, a third of whom were in a classroom with her, the other 2/3 participating online from home. After the lesson, her mentoring teacher and I had a thorough, candid, and professional conversation with the student teacher in which the three of us shared how we are still learning effective ways to reach and engage as many students as possible, and then try more ways to bring in those who continue to struggle. It was a stimulating discussion, one that I could never imagine having 11 months earlier when I last sat in a classroom to observe and evaluate a student teacher. I cherish these moments because they illuminate the in-depth learning students have built up over the last 3 or 4 years in the program, and the determination on their faces when they talk knowledgeably about teaching practice, even in the face of severe challenges, affirms the value of spending this kind of time in the field. As our educational programs are currently under review by CAPE, the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation, it's important to highlight a key standard: clinical partnership and practice, a relationship with area schools and teachers characterized by mutual trust, respect, accountability, and, quote, sufficient time to develop and strengthen relationships at all levels, end quote. That kind of investment depends upon having highly qualified university faculty who have the time and resources to collaborate with their partners in educator preparation. It depends upon field research of our students. It depends upon mentorship extending beyond the graduation date. It cannot happen with the current BOR contract proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final presenter is Professor Lisa Lancor from Southern. Lisa, you can begin whenever you'd like.
Good morning. Thank you for your patience. My name is Dr. Lisa Lancor, and I'm a professor and chairperson of the Computer Science Department at Southern. One of my favorite jobs is connecting with the business community and finding out what their needs are so that we can align our programs appropriately. Preparing our students for tomorrow's workforce is something we take very, very seriously. And part of this preparation includes meeting the very high standards of ABET, which is our national accrediting body that ensures that our curriculum, our faculty, and our resources are up to speed with the fast pace that technology is changing. Now, mind you, ABET also accredits the CS programs at Central, UConn, Quinnipiac, UNH, and Harvard and MIT. Yes, our programs meet the same standards as Harvard and MIT. On behalf of the CS department, we are deeply concerned about the cuts in the proposed contract. And if these proposals go through, we can kiss our accreditation goodbye. Today, I'd like to focus on 2 concerns. The first is related to curricula, keeping it updated and having the time to do so. Hartford Insurance Companies told me that they need software engineers with blockchain knowledge to stay competitive. In response, this semester, we have the only blockchain development course offered in all of Connecticut, and it's filled to capacity. This workforce alignment is possible thanks to a side letter of the CBA that's been in place for over 20 years. And in this side letter, CS faculty are granted a reduced teaching load so that we have time to stay current in our field, stay active in research, keep the curriculum updated, assess student learning, and provide deep, meaningful advisement for all of our students. And all of these things are required by our accreditation. Your contract proposal eliminates all side letters unless the parties agree to continue them. The threat of eliminating our side letter would be devastating to our programs. The second item is faculty. The ABET standards state that we have competent faculty members, which means that they must engage in professional development and do research. And we must have resources that attract and retain them. Your contract proposals will be detrimental to this standard. It is already really, really hard to hire new faculty in this highly competitive market. And there are plenty of programs that would love to hire my colleagues away. Losing faculty would crush the program for years to come. We are a university of access, and the lack of diversity in tech is a national crisis. We are providing affordable tech education to an incredibly diverse student body at the same
Professor,
accreditation standards
could
as
you wrap
Harvard.
up your comments, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
At the same standards as Harvard and MIT, but let me be clear, if you cut resources for research, increase our teaching load, eliminate our side letter, thereby decreasing the time to stay current and assess our standards, our students' learning, we will certainly lose accreditation. And that means our Connecticut workforce will crumble. Companies won't be able to find qualified and diverse tech talent here in the state. Please don't put our program at risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Fleury, that concludes public comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you to those of you who took the time to make comments today. Clearly, you put a lot of thought into your prepared remarks. It was stated that we should listen to hear and not to respond, which is what we always do in the public comment session. So I'll refrain from trying to respond with any specificity. Just to say that in the face of criticism that comes from anyone, whether that be a colleague, a member of the family, or someone speaking here at BOR, I think we try to remind ourselves about where that's actually coming from and what the heart and caring might be behind what is said, even when it might be said in ways that are not necessarily terribly constructive in terms of collegiality. And I also respect that there is a sense, which was articulated a couple of times, that the board has conducted the contract negotiation in a manner that is not respectful of the work of our institutions or faculty and staff. We do not negotiate our contract in a public setting. We do not free ourselves to spend 3 minutes each giving a different perspective or asking the management team to do that in a public setting. But we're very, very serious about getting this contract right. We listen to hear, we take notes, and we revisit with our management team and our negotiating team where this is going, recognizing that parties begin at the extremities and then arrive at the middle, because they both care about what's best in the end for students and those who serve them, who we recognize to be our faculty and staff and very good administrators across the system, and others who support them. So to my fellow regents who indeed were castigated and diminished today in terms of everything from your age to your intellectual abilities and your intents, I apologize that you have to hear that. But I think we have to appreciate that this is a negotiation environment under really fraught conditions. And behind it is a great deal of caring and concern, an earnest need and desire to get this right. And I know this won't satisfy every critic, nor should it be expected to, but I would just say on behalf of the board that we really do want to get this right. We don't expect that where we are today is where we end. Nobody who is in the negotiating game on either side in their right mind believes that. Don't let them tell you that. It's not true. So we will end up moving this to a place where at the end of the day, we all feel like we're doing the right thing. To be clear, the Board of Regents has no confusion whatsoever with the distinction between profitability and sustainability. Profit has no bearing in our consideration here. The only profit should be in the form of service and value to our students and to the communities we serve. I want to provide a few updates to you and just assure that I know I've made notes. I know my fellow regents have made notes. And these are things that we care about. We care about these assertions. We want to know what resonates, what doesn't in terms of the intent and the action, and we'll proceed accordingly. The presidential search process is proceeding. I want to thank my co-chair in the search, Regent Wright, for her tremendous efforts, and to all those of you who are involved in the search on the board, the advisory committee, et cetera. These have been really, really impressive conversations. I'm so impressed with the advisory committee. Anybody close to or involved with the search recognizes that despite this current culture of conspiracy, this is an authentic process that is being conducted with integrity, and it will be seen through with integrity. We have a very strong candidate pool. We, I think, are satisfied that we have diversity in terms of backgrounds, in terms of race, gender, ethnicity, and skill sets, as well as geography. And these are all considerations that the committee and the search advisory committee are taking very seriously. We've been busy reviewing applicants, and we will have semi-finalist interviews coming up next week. And they will be interviewed by members of the search advisory committee, who include many members of faculty and staff, as well as the board committee and our external constituents as well who serve. We're on track with our dates so far, subject to weather and other issues. I suppose that's always at risk, but we look forward to bringing forward the selected candidate later in the spring. Thanks again to the more than 40 people involved in the search advisory committee, and to my fellow regents and to the staff for facilitating this so effectively. On students first, in the vein of reflecting an effort to listen, ask, and inquire, we have asked the management team to continue to work very closely and to, in fact, amplify its work through the committee and board process to assure that we have our eyes on the ball, that we know where things are going, and that the key questions in terms of everything from shared governance to the academic program to the financial and organizational pieces are attended to. So today, as part of that process, we'll bring forward some summary reports from committee work regarding the financial and organizational picture, as well as the academic side. So I look forward to that and thank those who've been involved in that. And there'll be future presentations at the committee level discussion and then presentation at the board meeting on these matters going forward. We did also ask Dr. Levinson, in the interests of trying to get more information rather than less out there, to elevate the communication coming from the Connecticut State Community College office. So that I know has been happening and will continue to happen. And lastly, I wanted to say that the vice chair, myself, Dr. Gates, and our COO, Alice Pritchard, had what I felt was very candid and I thought constructive conversation with the Faculty Advisory Committee co-chairs. We look forward to having more of those in the future. And I want to thank them for their time and input and look forward to seeing them again soon. And there are some follow-up conversations happening as a function of that will hopefully enable us to continue to share information more effectively. All right, with that, I want to turn it to our interim president, Dr. Gates. Thank you again for your service and your leadership, and invite you to offer any remarks you'd have today.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Fleur. I would like to begin my comments today with spring reopening updates. The start of the semester has been going very well for our 17 institutions during continued unprecedented challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our community colleges opened smoothly and have been working closely with their local departments of public health when positive cases emerge. To date, there have been a handful of cases, and in all cases, the colleges have been able to remain fully operational as contacts have been limited on those campuses. At the universities, all the students have moved into the residence halls and are part of 100% weekly testing. To date, we have 30 residential students who've tested positive out of more than 7,200 tests, given for positivity rate of 0.4%. So the majority of these cases have been at Southern and Western. We are monitoring closely these numbers with the state. The schools are providing dashboards with weekly and cumulative results, and we're sharing that in our weekly COVID update. So everyone has access to this information, including the public as well. We've been working very closely with the Department of Public Health and the governor's administration to monitor the virus and to support our response. Our goals remain, as we've said from the beginning of the pandemic, the health of our students, faculty, staff, and everyone who works on our campuses. My many thanks to all those who are working so hard to give our students the best educational experience we can during these really challenging times. Next, what I'd like to do is move to an update on the budget and legislative actions. Ben Barnes will provide an overview of the current fiscal picture for the colleges and universities in the Finance Committee report a little later in this meeting. Our Appropriations Committee hearing is scheduled for later this month, where we'll have an opportunity to share the impact of the governor's budget on the constituent units of CSCU and highlight the challenges and opportunities our students experience in their annual student panels. So we're really looking forward to our students' narratives that they will share at the Appropriation Committee hearings. There are a number of bills, by the way, introduced this year, which impact CSCU, ranging from monitoring sexual assaults on campus, promoting automatic admissions for students into the CSUs, as well as bills related to Students First. Sean Bradbury's weekly updates to the BOR and campus leadership highlights these bills, and he will be monitoring them throughout the legislative session. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Sean for more information. We are, by the way, invited to present on March 11th for an informational hearing on our progress in establishing the Connecticut State Community College. More details will follow, but this will allow us to update the legislature on progress to date and address their concerns related to the merger. The next update I'll share is the CEO search. I'm excited to report that the CEO search process is going very well. Next Monday, we will release the names and information on the finalists for the 5 campuses. The 3 regional presidents are serving as search chairs, have been joined by regents and system office executive staff on the CSCU search committee. They're working very closely with the campus advisory committees to identify the best candidates for each campus. Campus advisory committees representing faculty, staff, students, foundation members, and administrators have been very engaged in the process, reviewing resumes, also interviewing semifinalists, and now making plans for virtual campus visits for the finalists the week of March 1st and March 8th. Final candidates are still slated for approval at the board's March meeting, if possible, but we anticipate a March meeting for the conclusion of that search. With respect to what's going on with systems initiatives, I would like to briefly share with you a couple of system initiatives. One, the CSCU Criminal Justice Task Force. This task force is composed of 18 members, reflective of balancing the interest of the community colleges, the four-year college, the universities, the larger CSCU system, and the community at large. The task force released the mid-year report on December 24th, 2020. We made it very clear within the charge, it is incumbent upon higher education to take responsibility for our own criminal justice curricula and to determine how we can strengthen efforts to erode systemic inequity that is keeping us from our full promise as a nation. This task force, through subcommittees, is responding to this clarion call. A second report will be released in May 2021 with final recommendations in summer 2021. A special note of thanks to the co-chairs, Dr. William Lugo and Dr. Tuesday Cooper, and to the 18 scholars who serve on the CSCU Criminal Justice Task Force. The second highlight here of a system initiative, and I'm proud to share with you today, involves the CSCU Library Consortium. The consortium includes the libraries of Connecticut's 12 community colleges, 4 state universities, Charter Oak State College, and the Connecticut State Library. The CSCU Library Consortium has provided a beacon of hope amidst unprecedented challenges. Their 2020-2023 strategic framework sets forth a strategic direction to empower member libraries to collaborate in support of success, equity, diversity, social justice, and access to resources that spark creativity and intellectual enrichment. So I'm extremely pleased that one of the pillars of the strategic plan focuses on equity, as well as the statement on diversity and social justice. It is really critical that we commit to policies and practices that ensure the success of every student, regardless of their starting point in life. So this really dedicated and collaborative effort of professionals and staff fosters pride and nurtures the dreams of students, their families, and the regions that impact student success. Libraries are inextricably linked to our community, region, and state in which we are located. A special note of thanks to Dr. Patrick Carr and the library directors. And moving along here, the next item I'd like to share with you, students first. New England Commission of Higher Education, commonly known as NECHI, a note about what we're doing there. We're having ongoing discussions with NECHI about the progress toward accreditation, and we will submit our annual update in June 2021, as opposed to April as originally planned, to give us a full year to work on the report. As you know, the BOR committees have had several updates at their most recent meetings on Students First and the merged college, and this will continue throughout the spring meetings to ensure transparency. Today, we will highlight information items that were presented at the finance and academic and student affairs meetings to the full board, but please continue to watch your email for updates because there are numerous updates continuously between meetings as the pace of change accelerates. And one final note here, as has been mentioned, and I listened very attentively to the comments, in past meetings, we will only discuss specifics of collective bargaining at the bargaining table. However, I want to make it very clear, based on today's comments before the board, that the CSU AAUP has not raised any concerns related to risk to accreditation as a result of the proposal at the bargaining table after several meetings. So what I'm seeing today here, I urge the concerned members of the university, heartfelt commentaries there and comments, to be in contact with the CSU leadership about these matters. So in closing, please be reassured that we remain strongly committed to stewarding and protecting the American ideal of the university and the colleges as places where learning is transformed into dreams and opportunity through access and affordable quality education. Thank you so much, Chairman Fleur.
Thank you, Dr. Gates. Appreciate it. Okay, we now move to the minutes, and I would like to make a friendly amendment to the minutes as requested by Professor Blitz, our FAC member here, and I think that so we want, this is his request, which makes all the sense in the world, to better clarify the content of the FAC report at the December meeting in the minutes that we adopt. So could I ask the secretary to please read the addition into the record so that we can hear it today?
Thank you, Chair Fleury. And this is at the request of Dr. Blitz, and this is the paragraph that will be added to the December minutes. FAC Chair Blitz and FAC Vice Chair Sasanker reported on FAC concerns on a number of issues, including the doubling of levels of management at the community college level, doubling of the system office controlled budget, reduction of faculty role in curriculum and shared governance, micromanagement by the board in budget amendment, college and career success course, and lack of review and revision of major policies by the board, Students First. Suggestions for improvement of the relations between the FAC and the board were proposed, joint meetings and regular reports, and a set of 10 guiding principles for public higher education was presented. And that is the paragraph to be added to the section related to the FAC December report.
Thank you. Okay, so that's been read for the record, and I need a motion to approve.
Moved. It's Naomi.
Thank you. As amended.
Second.
Okay, a second.
Second, as you leave.
Okay. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining?
I abstain. Redpath.
Okay, duly noted. All right, so the minutes as amended for Dr. Blitz are approved. Thank you, Dr. Blitz.
Thank you, Chair Fleury. I appreciate your taking my request into consideration. And I think that's an indication of the efforts that we are making to improve relations between the FHC and the board by advising Chair Fleury and also committee chairs of items that we wish to bring forward in advance so that we can have a proper discussion.
Thank you. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Are there any comments or anything needs to be pulled out before we act on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the consent agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Consent agenda is approved. Standing committee reports, academic and student affairs. Regent Harris, over to you.
Thank you very much. On the agenda, you will see a number of sabbaticals submitted by our CSU institutions. These are there, it's on page, at least on my iPad, pages 55 to 80. These are information items only by contract. I'm just calling it to everyone's attention because we omitted Southern Connecticut State University at the committee meeting. It has now been added, and I want everyone to be aware that that has happened. You also will see a number of actions on emeritus status. Those again are information items. Those are at Southern and Middlesex Community College. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that those have taken place and they are information items, and that is according to the current contract that we handle those things that way. As you heard, we are taking up a number of student first items at our committee meetings. It's important for us to make sure we're aware of what's happening and the progress that we're making and where there may be issues. At our last meeting in February, we heard presentations on enrollment management, strategic planning, and governance and curriculum alignment. The governance and strategic planning reports will come back to us later in the spring, and we will have more on that at the committee level and at the board level. Allison Buckley, our vice president, single institution vice president for enrollment management and student affairs, discussed the changes in reporting that you heard about via email earlier, and she gave the example of student financial aid and how this has been accomplished and what the end results are. And I'm sure we can hear more about it again at a later meeting. The area I want to share with you today is curriculum alignment. This is a huge task, as everyone knows. We have 650 associate degree programs and 350 certificate of programs across our 12 campuses. These have different requirements in many cases, and what the goal is to align them into one program. But I want to emphasize, it's not always exactly one program because there will be differences, and those differences will be respected to meet workforce and academic goals. I think that's really important that we keep that in mind because we hear a lot about that. And you will hear about that this morning, how this is being worked at. It's a very complex task, and I'm going to call on Francine Rosselli Navarra to introduce the topic and also to call upon 3 of our lead faculty in criminal justice who are working on this project. Francine?
Thank you, Dr. Harris, and good morning, Chair Fleury and members of the board. And thank you for the opportunity to provide with an update on our efforts to align the curriculum.
Fran, I think we're unfortunately losing you. So if, yeah, turn your camera off. And Fran, we lost your audio. We've got you now. So you may want to turn your camera off and talk and see if we can hold on to you that way.
All right, let's give it a shot. All right, you still have me?
We do.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
So as Dr. Harris said, the scope of our work is significant. We are starting with a lot of different programs, but I think what's also significant is the room for streamlining that and for aligning it. You know, if we look just at the TAP programs, I think they're a great example of where we can really do a lot to make things easier for our students. We have almost 30 TAP programs, but because each campus was provided some flexibility over a small portion of the Framework 30, for each of the disciplines in which we have a TAP program, we end up with 12 different versions. All right, so we have 12 different versions of the Psych TAP pathway and 12 different versions of the Soc TAP pathway. And if we, and that, you know, with almost 30, that's over 300 different programs. If we can align even just those, it would significantly reduce the number of programs that we're offering as a single college and streamline those programs for students. So the work is daunting, but I think the payoff is great. Our goal is really just one college, one catalog. That's our mantra. And I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I'm sure you're all lovely people, but as a group, you're a little intimidating. We hope that that catalog will go live in fall of 22 so that students can begin applying for enrollment in Connecticut State. And that means that actually we need to begin the back end build as early as this summer. So we are on a bit of a tight timeline. The second page of that handout really steps you through the flow of the curriculum. Most of our faculty are still at stage 1 and working, preparing their curriculum and meeting with one another, trying to align their courses and their programs. We do have about 20 or so programs that are in stage 2. They are either or have been through APRC or they are on the agenda for APRC. That's our Aligned Program Review Committee, our Transitional Curriculum Committee, or ready to go to Academic and Student Affairs Committee to be recommended for endorsement. And we've got just about programs right now that are out for campus endorsement. And that's a significant piece of this work because these are going to be programs offered at the single college. We want to make sure that faculty at all of the campuses, even if it's a campus that doesn't currently offer that program, but all faculty have a chance to have a voice in the curriculum for Connecticut State. So that campus endorsement process is important. This is our first group of programs to go forward for that process. That's my quick summary. What I'd like to do is have you hear from some of our CJ faculty. We have Professor Rebecca Rist-Brown, Dr. Katie Kleiss, and Professor Mike Emanuel, who coordinated the efforts to align our CJ programs. And so I will turn it over to them. Thank you.
Thank you, BOR members, for having us here. I'm Professor Rebecca Rist-Brown from Middlesex Community College. And thank you for the invite, Dr. Harris. We started the process back in 2018 after the big meeting we had at Manchester. And over the the next year, we started kind of what I would say is getting the ducks in a row process. We made a list of all the courses we had in Banner, and we're surprised to find out we had 121 classes to look through. We also each, as Fran pointed out, we each had our own pathway that was a little bit different than each other, and we all had our own criminal justice degree track. So looking at this process, I worked with Mike Emanuel, Katie, and we realized that there was no way that we could do this on contract without it being detrimental to students, because it required a great deal of attention to detail, sitting at my 8-foot kitchen table and being very focused without interruptions, because you had to look at everything holistically. How would the courses align? What was going to be the sequencing? Which courses were we going to bring into? And Mike and I actually had a great meeting with Fran and Mike Stefanowitz. We explained these challenges, and they're the ones that actually coordinated and allowed us to do the work this past summer off contract, but we ended up getting paid for our summer work, which was the best situation we could have had. So over a 2-month period, Katie Kleiss, myself, and Mike Emanuel went through all 121 course outlines. We eliminated 50 courses. We aligned the TAP pathways and the criminal justice program to actually work more seamlessly, so that if students transferred from one program to the other, they wouldn't lose credits. And then we ended up writing 5 new courses. And the other thing that we're very proud of moving forward is to adapt to what has been going on in our social climate, is we now have a CJ core diversity requirement. So we now have a new core that is its own CJ class that students have to take to understand about diversity, equity, inclusion, so on and so forth. So I'll turn it over now to Mike. He can add some comments about the work we did.
Hi, good morning. Mine is going to focus on, and I don't know if you want to hear this part of it, but what is probably going to be encountered by other groups, because it was a daunting task, and I get to give Katie and Rebecca all the kudos in the world, because they put in a lot of work and time into this. So the time constraints, and I don't know if you're looking for this, but just please kind of like cut me off at the pass if you're not interested in this. The time constraints for the remaining groups are very, very small, right? Because we've been through this, but you're going to need a leader. You're going to need somebody to, drive the horses, so to speak. And the attention to detail on this is pretty daunting, as Fran was saying. That was a good word. It's a daunting task there. Number of courses, the English prerequisites are still kind of floating, back and forth. FYE requirements, and then the due dates. So what Rebecca's a good leader for us, because she's a doer, right? Taking nothing away from Katie, but she's a doer. So we had due dates, we had benchmarks, and we hit them. But there's an awful lot of work. Make no mistake about it there. And the other thing is Rebecca kind of alluded to, is that we've been a group we're kind of a cohesive group. We are a cohesive group. We have our differences and all that, but we've been hearing other groups that they don't agree on things, and you might be running into that. So again, I don't want to be negative in that, but I just want to let you know that we have our differences, but we ironed them out. But since we knew each other and knew our personality, it was a little bit easier to deal with. And Katie and Rebecca, jump in here if you have anything further. And the experience in our group, which were 10 individuals, was awesome. And people brought in different types of things, different points of view and all of that. We set ground rules. And again, are we doing the C- minimum or the C minimum? And we agreed upon 5 or 6 outcomes. So, there's much more to it, but I just want to say that, we're hopefully complete with this and moving forward. And, but I got to give my comrades a big thumbs up here. And, and what was good is, Fran and Mike and everyone, when we first met, kind of gave us some way, a path to follow. And I think maybe we established that now, but it's an awful lot of work, and I think you know that. But I just wanted to share those type of things where other groups are probably going to have challenges with it, especially if you have egos getting in the way and personalities, and again, not to go down the negative route, but just wanted to share that.
Katie?
Thank you. Thank you to the board for having us here today. I would just add to that that I think the collective experience of the CJ group, and I would add to what Fran said, and to also to what Rebecca said, we're doers. I think the CJ group also, we're good at taking orders as people with backgrounds in the criminal justice field. So one of the things that I think I'd like to emphasize is our recognition of the distinct advantages for students. The criminal justice field by nature is a diverse field in the sense that students will often choose to go into a variety of different areas. And so, we have students that are interested in law enforcement, students that are looking for a career in corrections. So ultimately, our degree that we developed for the consolidated curriculum had 8 areas of concentration. And so we recognize that in order to effectively meet the demands of our students, particularly during challenging times with enrollment challenges, of course, the challenges of COVID and other situational factors, is that by being a cohesive group and by creating a curriculum that we feel we can effectively administer and offer to students across the 10 community colleges that offer criminal justice, that and then beyond that, was really kind of our focus. And so I think that we've all seen firsthand the challenges for students when, particularly with enrollment challenges. So if a course is canceled on my campus, and I say, oh, that's wonderful, my colleague at Middlesex Community College, Rebecca, she's offering it this semester, and the hoops that students have to jump through just to be able to take a course that they need for graduation during these challenging times, I think we see how this benefits our students directly. I think that also as criminal justice professionals, our field is constantly changing. Whether it's current events, whether it's new law changes, whether it's different trends in our field. And so I think that this curriculum alignment process, we all felt like this was something that needed to be done on our local campuses. We felt like we were all maxed out as it was. So I know that it was a very enthusiastic undertaking. I can say that we were always a close-knit group. The PCs in the criminal justice departments across the 10 colleges. But I would add to that and say that I think it has, particularly as a lot of us are off campus teaching online, the strength of the group is real, and the camaraderie that we have formed has been an advantage during these particularly difficult times of COVID. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be involved in the process. I found it enjoyable. Once we got through all the logistical issues, it was really nice to have the time and the opportunity to collaborate on really diving into curriculum and looking at course outcomes and looking at course descriptions and ensuring that our program is really top notch. And I'm confident that what we've produced, really sets us apart from other, not other community college programs across other states. And then I think even, within the state of Connecticut, we've talked to both public and private institutions who are very complimentary of it. So I'm grateful. Certainly we are here to be a model. We're here to advise other disciplines and programs that are going through this. We're happy to share our experiences.
Thank you very much. I don't know if board members have any questions of the speakers. I appreciate both hearing about what you accomplished. I think it's been an amazing feat, and you are really leaders, and I know that your model, hopefully will influence other areas of other disciplines. I also appreciate hearing some of the problems, because we need to be aware of those as we move forward as well. So thank you very much. And that concludes, unless someone has a question, that concludes my report.
I do, Merle.
I think I heard somebody saying they have a question.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, not so much a question as a comment. And nice to see my colleagues here. I know that CJ's been on this from the very beginning, and I think one of the things that you all mentioned at the ASA meeting was how, the importance of having that time at the beginning, summer work to put into it, focus, detail, because it is such an enormous task, right? And you have provided a really great example of how we can have differentiated programs with these 8 different areas of concentration. But, these are wonderful anecdotes, but of course samples. So at the ASA, I asked, how many of the hundreds of programs that need to be completed over the next year, or less than that, have had the privilege of that kind of focused attention, that kind of investment in work, and that many eyes on it. And I don't believe that there was a clear answer. So I am very glad that we have certain areas that have had the amount of attention that they need, but there is still an open question as to the entire catalog of the college that needs to be completed in very short time and how that will be done. And in addition to that, I just want to take note of the fact that we were also, Fran mentioned how important it is that all faculty have the opportunity for a voice. But the opportunity for a voice that's being offered to the colleges is 1 month turnaround time for review of these programs, which is not feasible. So on paper, sure, in principle, perhaps. In reality, no. We can't rearrange our processes to get there. And the governance process that has been followed has been the TAP process thus far. And faculty have been saying they don't think it's adequate to building the entire catalog of a college, but yet that has been the established governance process. The TAP governance process, though, has allowed colleges to go through their governance in the past. This is a deviation from that. So that is also important to note, because we are shifting from, a set of programs that have had decades of refinements and hundreds of eyes on them to something that's going to go through the process in a very small amount of time with a very small amount, very few eyes on it. So not so much about just the principled idea of that process, but about the concern about what happens when you have this volume of highly complex stuff, with so few eyes on it. So just wanted to make sure that we kind of have that on record, because it is a cause for concern, I believe.
Thank you. Other questions? I turn back to Chairman Fleury. We've heard what you said.
I do have a question, Regent Harris. Actually, I have 2. One is for the folks who just reported on the CJ. It sort of resonates with me. I must admit, in a previous career, I worked as a clinical coordinator with juvenile delinquents under court order in a closed setting. So I'm kind of aware of some of the complexities of dealing with the situation. Subsequently, I became a philosopher. I don't know if it was directly as a result. But the question that I have for you folks is, what you described the community college component. What about the university component? What is happening there? Is there an alignment with the community colleges in terms of the TAPs? Is there an alignment of the CJ programs at the universities? How is that working? And then I have one further question.
This is Rebecca. I can comment on that. Actually, Katie and I just had an excellent articulation agreement with Steve Marcellinus, myself and her, and the UNH Criminal Justice Program on Tuesday night, I believe. It was either Tuesday. The days are starting to blend together. Sorry, I can't. It was this week. And the UNH is actually, they love what they saw already with our proposal. And we're working on our articulation agreement currently. I'm actually typing it here while I'm talking to you about they're going to accept our criminology TAP pathway as well as our new criminal justice program. So we have already started the articulation process for our new program. Every document we produced as part of the criminology TAP pathway was sent to the CSU TAP coordinators that we had worked with initially when we created the TAP pathway. So they've been getting the documents all along. We've been sharing everything with Steve Marcellinus And we actually just had a meeting with Steve Marcellinus to talk about alignment of the TAP pathways at the CSUs, that could they align their admission standards to be one standard instead of different standards at each of the universities to make it easier for our students.
And what did and have you been in contact with the CSU faculty? I mean, I know that at CCSU, I think it's the largest criminal justice program in the system.
We have been in contact. We've been sending documents to them. We have not gotten feedback from them. We are sending stuff and we've not been responded to. Steve Marcellinus is working as the conduit between us and them as far as those admission requirements, because some of the CSUs require a 2.0, some are a 2.3, some are individual course grades, and we would like to see that streamlined as well to make things easier for our students when they transfer.
And I take it there's no member of the CCSU criminal justice program on your committee?
No, but we work with, Katie will probably know her last name. We work with Julie quite a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, we work with Julie Scheinbreck Davis at CCSU. So one of the challenges that we've encountered since actually the beginning of TAP, before consolidation work was even commenced, was at the four-year institutions in the state of Connecticut, the criminal justice programs look vastly different. So I would say that Central Connecticut's program most closely aligns with the community colleges pre and post consolidation. At Western Connecticut State University, it's a justice and law administration program, so it looks a little different. At Southern, it's a concentration. There's no separate CJ degree. And at Eastern, it is a relatively new major, and it's predominantly, it was more on the criminology, sociology side. So we've had some challenges simply because of the variation from each of the four-year campuses. So that's been a challenge. But I think that the community college curriculum becoming better aligned will hopefully open those conversations. And I know Steve has been involved in that. And that's also part of the reason that we had focused on aligning our what we call our career degree, our AS degree, better with TAP, with the intention and the hope that that helps to facilitate those conversations and some continuity on the four-year campuses as well.
And I should make a correction real quick. I apologize.
Yeah.
Jessica Waterhouse, who is a criminal justice program coordinator for Tunxis, is also I believe she's the program director of criminal justice for Charter Oak. So she is on our committee, so she's doing dual duty for Charter Oak as well as for Tunxis.
Thank you.
Just one small question, not to the CJ people, but I guess perhaps it's to Merle or perhaps to Jane. I notice in your flow chart, it's on page 89 of the board packet, that you have campus endorsements at stage 3 and BOR approval at stage 5. What exactly is the difference between endorsement and approval? And in particular, can a campus decide that it doesn't approve of the proposal, or is endorsement simply the positive aspect?
Jane, do you want to respond? I mean, we'll have time to go back to this. This is not the final discussion, and we can deal with it. I don't know if we need to move on because it's about noon and we have quite a bit of number of items still to do. Matt?
If there's a quick answer, please go ahead. If not, certainly pick it back up in the committee.
I'm willing to take the answer offline.
We'll do it offline, and as I said, this will come back to the committee periodically before we're finished. So, but we will talk to you offline. That's great. Thank you.
All right. Good questions, and thank you for the presentation and for the good work. I mean, clearly this is not a light lift. So we appreciate your efforts and also appreciate, the direct and first person experience that you've shared. And that's instructive to us as well. So thank you all. Keep up the good work. Stay safe. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Harris. We do have, yeah, quite some robust content still ahead of us here. There's no audit report or items this time, so we'll move right to finance and infrastructure. And there are a couple of reports and action items, so be paying attention. Over to you, Regent Balducci. When you unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met jointly with the Human Resources Committee on Tuesday, February 16th. We had 3 information items. One of them had to do with a report on projects from the colleges and universities and how buildings, et cetera, were being completed and where they were in the different stages. The second one had to do with hiring for Connecticut community colleges in the current fiscal year. And the third was a review of the 2018 projections. The 3 action items we had were acceptance of a gift for Northwest Community College in excess of $356,000, donation for a scholarship in the name of Ronald Begansky on behalf of his wife, Wendy Begansky, and that was on the consent calendar, which we already approved. The next one was the extended payment plan for students for the spring of 2021. If you recall back last spring, we had passed that item for the spring of 20 and fall of 20. This is to move that along to help students out who are running into difficulty because of loss of jobs or whatever might be caused by lack of funds to help pay, and they are allowed to carry a $1,200 debt and be willing to pay it off within a year. About 2,000 students are affected by it. Leaders of the community and of the community colleges were all in favor of it, and that was also on the consent calendar. The third item we had to act on was the 2021 mid-year projections by the Board of Regents, which we'll do in a moment. I would like to first comment and thank Ben and Melantina and their team for the work that they did on trying to put together these projections, and also on the research that they did on the 2018 budget that we had taken up. The work behind the scenes is often goes unnoticed, but it's really, really appreciated because they're dealing with unprecedented times, uncharted waters, whatever you might call it. And nobody has had to face this before. So everywhere, whether it's us or whether it's business or whatever, are trying to deal with and make projections for the future. The first item that we heard about or was information of an item for us was the staffing levels at the one college for fiscal 2021. The colleges will be $2 million under the revised budget. $2 million. So far, they've hired or transferred 37 staff people to build the infrastructure of the college. Of those 37 hirees, 7 are members of the bargaining unit, and the other 30 are management exempt. I think a key point to note is that 32 of the 37 of the staff come from within the CSCU system. Only 5 are new hires. As we moved ahead, the plan is to hire or transfer another 48 additional bargaining unit staff. Most will be used to help implement the Guided Pathways program. And you know how we discussed that last year, dealing with the need for advisors, et cetera, to help the students successfully thread their way through their time at the colleges. The last item within that information item was that there will be provided $400,000 in faculty stipend for the curriculum alignment work. The other item of information that we heard compared the CSCU's original Student First Substantive Change request, the NECHI, to the actual budget results. And based on the mid-year spending projections, which we hit in a minute, we've achieved the $14 million savings called for in the original plan for fiscal year 2020. The system's on track to remain close to the spending proposals that went back to that time, but revenues are going to be short $22 million below the forecast of the 2018 projections. With fiscal 2021 spending projections to be $499.9 million, we'll have achieved the $14 million savings called for in the original plan for 2021. We also heard a brief update on the state budget proposal, which is always of interest to people at the colleges and universities, and certainly to the board. The governor's proposal generally leaves things flat, with a few exceptions which are noted, should be noted by us. One of them is that it's going to end the $20 million in extra fringe benefit support for the colleges, which is a pretty big hit. And it also will not be funding the 27th payroll, at least at the projections right now that we have, will not be funding the 27th payroll in fiscal year 2023, which is another $12 million cost. It does include $6 million per year for the PAC program. And hopefully we can move on and speak to members of the committee and hopefully the governor's office, and we'll see a little more leeway in helping out the universities. I know that the governor has all kinds of issues before him and his group that people looking for dollars for whatever programs they have. The action item we had before us, and you have a host of material in the packet, deals with the mid-year budget projections. And I'll highlight a few of them. The enrollment has continued to decline. It's dropped to 2.4% before the levels that we had anticipated in October. The universities are down about 2,000 students, and the colleges are down about 3,600 students. Thank you for that. Chart up, which hopefully we have an opportunity to look at. The colleges and universities have also reduced spending to offset the decline of those revenues, but a system-wide deficit is still there of $58 million. The good part of that, if it's good, is it's down from the $69 million from the revised budget in October. New federal funds were approved in December to allow us to provide $27 million in student financial assistance for this spring, and that's important for our students of need, etc. And plus replace lost revenue of about $58 million. Additional funding for approximately $20 million will remain available for the colleges for student assistance and revenue replacement. One of the things in the chart that's up there now before you is, I think, of major interest, and that is projected reserves. We had projected $118 million for the state universities, but with the debt that needed to be paid down, we had to reduce that to by $36 million. But we end up picking up from the feds another $29 million, which puts us over $100 million at about $112 million for the Connecticut State Universities. The community colleges, on the other hand, had a $32.6 million reserves. However, there, as I mentioned a moment ago, we're down a little over $22 million. But with the help of the federal government, $27.995 million, they're back up to $38.6 million, which is positive, I guess. Not enough, but in good stead. Charter Oak lost only about $117,000 out of their $5.9 million reserves, and they're down to about 5.878, as you can see before you. There is additional funds that we're hopefully going to be receiving through the feds, which will help pay students additional fees and grants for them to move forward with their studies. Mr. Chairman, that pretty much concludes my report. With that, I would move adoption of the resolution to accept the midterm recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Actually, may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. And now, any questions, comments?
Sorry, me.
Please.
Sure. So I just want to once again draw attention to the fact that while in some respects it is positive that 32 of the 37, hires were from within, what that actually represents for us when it's coupled with the hiring restrictions at our colleges is that we are moving resources away from students to somewhere else. And our so-called savings due to attrition, when viewed in this way, can be viewed as savings due to underserving students. These are extremely challenging times for both, professors and students, and the resources are moving in the wrong direction. And I also wanted to, when we were talking at the finance committee, one of the things that was mentioned was that the implementation costs, as they are being accounted for some reason, we're only counting things that are one-time costs that do not continue into the implementation of the consolidated college, which is an odd way to count, and not particularly revealing of anything in particular, right? And there are better ways to account for the cost of consolidating the college over and above the cost of running 12 colleges, which I think is something that is important to just know, right? What is the cost of this investment? So we can continue to track, what we're doing. And we don't currently have a measure that allows us to see that clearly. So it would be nice in the future to be able to develop that with an eye towards being able to be more transparent about the costs over and above the 12 colleges. If we could develop that, that would be wonderful. Yeah, so that's it for me.
Thank you. Let's do this. I did not make clear that the action is to accept the projection, essentially. Is that right?
The action is adoption of the resolution that we accept the 2020 and 2021 mid-year projections.
Right. Yes. Only to say that if there are other comments about the broader picture in terms of personnel, et cetera, I'm happy to entertain those. But let's deal with this resolution first. It's moved and seconded. Any questions about the specific resolution? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, the resolution is approved, Mr. Chairman. Now, I have in my notes that there would be some presentation concerning both of these items from staff. Is there anything that will be added or should be added?
I would say that certainly I think Ben is here. And he certainly would be able to add any particular commentary that there might be need for. I thought it was covered. It's certainly covered in our packets, and it's
okay. So
charts that we showed. So.
Ben or Carrie, just if you had anything you wanted to add to the chairman's quite comprehensive and yet succinct overview, now's the time. And perhaps if there are any other questions, Ben and Carrie are here with regard to the forecast and also the college hiring at org. Hi, Carrie and Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wholly endorse the committee chairman's report, and he has accurately described the materials we presented at the committee meeting, and I would be happy to provide answers to any more specific questions that come, but I don't think a further report is required.
Okay. Just on the forecast and financial piece before offering anyone who has a question for Kerry the opportunity to do so. I just wanted to say that I made note of the chairman's remark that this is the proposed budget from the administration, and we have our work cut out for us, particularly on items like fringe, which is not funded at the same level as we need it to be. We will have to be advocating very strongly for our system in the context of the many demands that the administration and the legislature will be facing. But I know that the regions certainly stand ready to participate and support that in any way we can. And I know that the rest of our university and college community will do so as well. Okay. Anything for Ben or Kerry?
I had just one quick question, although given the lateness, I'll take that also offline. As you may know, I'm sort of interested in the issue of the shared services at the community college level as part of the funds controlled at the central level. And it's just a question with respect to page 131 of the budget of the BOR packet. It's page 64 of the finance package. And that is the shared services, which amount to $37 million. Of that, 12 million is in terms of personnel services, plus the fringe to 20. So that leaves 16 million, which is in the other category. And I'm always curious about the other category. So the request to Ben would be to provide information to us on that other expenses. It's a considerable amount. It's nearly half of the shared services. I don't need the answer right now. You can certainly, provide it at your convenience so that we can proceed with other matters today for the board.
Well, I will provide.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ben and Kerry, for your good work, and we look forward to hearing more about it as things progress, notwithstanding all the challenges you face and we face as well. HR and Admin Committee, Chair Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a very brief report. Thanks to the good work of Representative and Regent Balducci. We had a joint meeting with the Finance Committee because as we look at our jurisdiction, sometimes we find overlap between the work of various committees. And we were talking about the finances, which he outlined, and also the organizational structure under the purview of the regional president when it came to some issues, particularly around workforce development and the $6.6 million in additional revenue that came to the system based on the work of those regional presidents through a streamlined process that engaged both internal and external organizations. I commend to the members of the board a careful reading of the report that Presidents Coley, Steinmetz, and Lombella did. It's really quite interesting and a great display of how regionalization has helped the system to proceed, to be engaged, and to be efficient as we continue to work toward our goals of improved student outcomes, improved enrollment, and financial stability. We will be looking at shared services from an organizational perspective at our next meeting, which will be in March. And I'm told that even though you may see on the board's calendar that March 11th was the date, because of a call from the legislature for our administrative folks to be at a public hearing, we probably are going to have to change that date. But that, as of now, is the topic, and that is our report.
Thank you. Okay, I have nothing to report from the executive committee. We will not be meeting in an executive session today, but I want to thank everybody for your efforts and your input and your continued work, and look forward to what comes next. Stay safe out there. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 See you later.
Thank you.
Be well. Thank you.